Coming up on this Monday edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now, a loaded show on tap. Hope all of you out there had a fantastic weekend. Looking ahead into the future, could the Eagles trade or release Dallas Goedert? We're going to break down why that could happen, and we're also going to talk about one contract extension candidate you may have forgotten about. But first, on Friday's show, I showed you this graphic here of the most subscribers picked up since June 1 among the teams inside the NFC East for channels that we have here at Chat Sports. Philadelphia Eagles Now was leading the way, 643 subs as we continue to have a monster month. Giants now with 493, Cowboys report with 399, then the Commanders report at 328. I'm happy to announce we had a monster weekend here on the show, and we continue to be in the lead. Good stuff by everybody, man. Eagles Now, 824 new subscribers. Cowboys Report has moved up to second place with Giants Now moving down to third. Commanders Report, kind of like the division standings, in fourth place with 371 new subscribers. Continue to hit that sub button. Training camp coming up about a month from now. Preseason, regular season. This is your one-stop shop for the best Eagles coverage right here on YouTube. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Hit that sub button right now. And today's show is sponsored by Rhone. What a transition right there. You can get 20% off by going to Rhone.com/chatsports if you're looking for high-quality menswear that will allow you to look good, feel good, get that swag level up. Rhone is your answer. We'll tell you more about them coming up here in just a little while. So story number one here. What does the future hold for Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert? Could he get released? Could he get traded? He talked about his future over the weekend to Jeff Nyberg of the Philadelphia Inquirer, who I've actually known Jeff for a really long time. Shout out to Arrowhead Day Camp from way back in the day, and then he went to Unionville, went to Temple University, and he's climbed up the ranks there at the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I thought he approached this article in a really good way where Dallas Goedert was holding a football camp for some kids, and Jeff asked him about his future because it's a valid question to ask about when you consider the money, and then you also talk about the injury history that Goedert has had to deal with, unfortunately. Now, he signed that 4-year, $57 million contract a couple of years ago. That deal runs through 2025, but the final year of that contract, next year in 2025, is not guaranteed. And at 29 years old, the Eagles could soon look to find his replacement. They did not draft the tight end in the draft this year, but they could do that next year. They also have Grant Calcaterra, a young tight end waiting in the wings, who they drafted a couple of years ago. They're high on Albert Okwuegbunam. That's why they brought him back. And then they brought in C.J. Uzomah by way of free agency. As for the financials here, Goedert has a cap hit in 2025 of $11.8 million, a void charge in 2026 of $8.2 million. So if he continues to get injured, not be available, he's expensive, and the production continues to go down, we know how Howie Roseman can be very smart with the salary cap. He could try to restructure that deal. He could trade Dallas Goedert. He could release him because of the non-guaranteed money left on that deal. Or we could see something like we saw with the player who the Eagles respect, like they respect Dallas Goedert, in Goedert's roommate in Avonte Maddox, where they release him, allow Maddox to test free agency, and then they bring him back on the vet min. So following the 2024 season, a trade, release, restructure, a new contract of sorts does seem inevitable. And Goedert's injury history, it's been unfortunate because he's such a good player when he's involved in the offense, which he wasn't enough last year under Brian Johnson, and when he's healthy. He missed 5 games in 2022 because of a shoulder injury, missed 3 games in 2023 because of that fractured forearm, and he has not played a full season since 2018. Of course, full seasons in the NFL are a rarity, but you'd like to see him be available a little bit more. And then you combine the price tag, the injuries, with the production. Is this a part of the scheme from last year and the usage, or is he declining as a player? I think it's the former. I don't think it's the latter, because in that Super Bowl season and in the Super Bowl, Dallas Goedert was a difference maker. He's a terrific all-around tight end, but last year he posted his lowest per-game average in receiving yards since Zach Ertz left the Eagles, 42.1 yards per game. Those numbers aren't great. Now, here's what Goedert had to say to Jeff Nyberg about his future when asked about it and the injury concerns. He said, a lot of my injuries, I've been blessed enough. They've been in the middle of the season, but they've only been 4 or 5 weeks. For me, it's just knowing that I have to do whatever I can to get back out on the field to help the team. I feel really good right now. I'm not too worried about it. I love being in Philadelphia. I'm going to give them everything I've got and let the chips fall where they may. And he was talking about how he had this interaction with Greg Olsen at tight end U, which is George Kittle's tight end camp in Nashville, where Goedert was and attended. And he said Greg Olsen said his best years came after 31, 32, 33. He didn't make a Pro Bowl until his 8th year. And Goedert said, I still feel like the best years are ahead of me. So there are injury-prone players, of course, guys who can't escape the injury bug. Unfortunately, at the NFL level, their bodies just get beat down, and they can't maintain that health to stay on the field. They always get hurt. Then there's injury misfortune and bad luck. Goedert even said it himself. It's not like he's had to deal with a catastrophic injury. He's kind of had some bad injury luck, which has caused him to miss some time here and there, about a month randomly. You look at his numbers over the last 4 years. Last year, 83 targets, 59 catches, 592 yards, only 3 touchdowns. In 2022, 69 targets, 55 catches, but was much more explosive. He had fewer targets and less catches, but the yards were up so much in 2021, probably his career year up to this point. And what do you know? It's when he played 15 games, 830 yards on 56 catches and 4 touchdowns. And then in 2020, the 11 games played. So the pattern there, the games missed. But it's not like he's missed a ton of games. And I will say this, and I've said this for a long time. You look at tight ends like George Kittle and Dallas Goedert. They are true dual threat tight ends. And what I mean by a dual threat tight end, they can block, they can catch passes. Travis Kelce is kind of a glorified wide receiver. So I look at Kelce and Goedert as 2 of the best all-around tight ends in the NFL, meaning they are critical to their team's success as pass catchers and as blockers. And Goedert is certainly special in that way. So what should the Eagles do as you look ahead? It's always important to have foresight. Quality businesses always do look ahead and plan ahead. Should the Eagles keep Goedert? Type K. Cut Goedert? Type C. Trade him? Type T. Let me know down in the comment section. So story number 1, we can cross that off right here. Story number 2, a contract extension candidate you may have forgotten about because Howie Roseman's been really busy this offseason in signing some of their own players to contract extensions. But first, I mentioned off the top of the show that today's Eagles Now is sponsored by Rhone, and summer is here. If you're looking to change up your wardrobe, add to your wardrobe, just get some high-quality menswear, your one-stop shop is Rhone. Get 20% off your order at rhone.com/chatsports. I'm wearing their commuter polo right now. It's one of my favorites. Stretchable fabric that's breathable, very comfortable and soft, but also wrinkle release technology. You hang these shirts up, wrinkles go away. There is also odor-free technology. I've worn this on the golf course. I can wear this out on a date. I wear it out, night out on the town. I wear it here at work. Versatile options here. The golf polo is awesome for this time of year. And then I've also worn their commuter shirt as well, under a suit, just with pants, untucked or tucked. Couple of different options there. Really like their shirts, their pants, and their shorts. So comfortable too. High quality menswear that is going to last a long time and not fall apart. So it's worthy of that investment. And speaking of investing, 20% off using the code CHATSPORTS. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the show notes of today's video. That contract extension candidate that I teased and alluded to, Josh Sweat. And it's an interesting conversation here. Bleacher Report put together 32 players on 32 teams who could land extensions prior to the 2024 season. And as I also noted, Howie Roseman has been very, very busy in signing players to contract extensions this offseason. Landon Dickerson was given a bag, $21 million per year, highest paid guard in the history of the NFL as far as average annual value. Jordan Mailata now making top 5 offensive tackle money in the National Football League. Devontae Smith making $25 million per year. The contract tacked onto his 5th-year option. And then A.J. Brown making $32 million per season, second most among all wide receivers in the NFL, behind Justin Jefferson at $35 million. So a Josh Sweat extension becomes very, very interesting here. He restructured his contract before the year. He has a cap hit of $8 million. In 2023, got off to a really good start. This is on the heels of that career year in 2022 when he had a career high 11 sacks. He had 6 sacks in the first 7 weeks of the year last year, and then he hit this crazy drought where he could not buy a sack, just like cold hitters cannot buy a hit. 1 sack in his final 9 starts. So is the future murky for him on top of the sliding in production? But then you think about what the Eagles did this offseason, right? Eagles paid Bryce Huff. He's making $17 million per season. They drafted Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian, and they're expecting Nolan Smith to take that sizable leap from year 1 to year 2. Added some weight, still has the speed, got the shoulder operated on. And is Josh Sweat a scheme fit for what Vic Fangio wants to do with this 3-4 front? I kind of think that Josh Sweat is more of that traditional 4-3 end, although Jonathan Gannon did run that hybrid defense. Here's what Bleacher Report had to say about Sweat. He remains a core piece in what is an overwhelmingly talented Eagles defensive front, while general manager Howie Roseman has made outside additions by adding Reddick via trade this spring, selecting Nolan Smith on day 1 in 2023 and taking a swing on toolsy edge rusher Jalix Hunt in the 3rd round in this year's draft. Sweat's ability to live up to expectations should see and allow him to earn a nice payday to remain an Eagle. Now, Josh Sweat's age is still on his side. He's still a relatively young player at 27 years old, even though he's been in the league for a little bit now, since being a 4th-round pick out of Florida State back in 2018. 6.5 sacks last year off the 11 that he had in 2022. As I always like to say, it's difficult to gauge which players were good, which players were bad last year because the scheme was so terrible. But the 11 sacks in 2022, a great year, and that really culminated in that career year after he was building up to that in the previous couple of seasons, and he's been a really good developmental story for the Birds. When he was growing up in high school, he was the number 1 player in his recruiting class, and then he tore up his knee, he fell down the recruiting rankings, he went to Florida State, and certainly didn't live up to the expectations of what was once the number 1 overall player in the class. Still a really good player, but the Eagles looked at him as a guy who had height at 265 pounds, good speed, good power, good pass rush moves. They take him in the 4th round with that injury history, and he's ended up being a good player and a good developmental story for Philadelphia. But have they started to plan for the post-Hassan Reddick era and the post-Josh Sweat era with some of the moves that they've made recently? Certainly interesting to talk about it in that way because the Eagles were thinking about maybe releasing Josh Sweat. They restructure his contract to lower that number. He comes back to Philadelphia. Remember when he posted on Instagram? He thought that his days with Philadelphia were over, but now he's definitely going to be looking for a new deal after 2024. Will Josh Sweat land that aforementioned new deal with Philadelphia? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. Thanks to all of the new ones and the real ones who have hit that sub button recently. We're so glad to have you here on Eagles Now, and we won't let you down with our coverage.